We are so excited for Kay Brooks to teach us and tell us more about Brain Injury 101, joined by Frank. Um, Kay Brooks is a certified brain injury specialist trainer, CBIST, and has worked with individuals with brain injuries and related disabilities for 29 years. Kay is passionate about educating others about brain injury and is experienced in developing strategies and supports to help brain injury survivors live meaningful lives. Kay is the head and spinal cord injury director. Is that right, Kay, at Thrive Upstate? Please tell me if I got your title wrong.
That's right. Yep, that's it.
And we're so grateful to have you today, Kay. Take it away.
Great. Thank you. We are excited to be with you today. And, Frank and I do love to share with people, just spread the awareness of brain injury. It's not that, of course, we're not happy that people get brain injuries. So we want to prevent them. But we also know, too, that, in some ways, we're viewed as a smaller population within our provider network. We're really not. There are a lot of people who have brain injuries, but we don't serve as many comparatively speaking. But so we're just really glad to be able to share with you today. With me, I have Frank Staten. Frank is a brain injury survivor. And Frank and I got to know each other when he was referred to our program through vocational rehabilitation. I think, Frank, you've been here about 10 years?
10 years now.
About 10 years. And Frank's just going to really briefly tell you a little bit about what happened, how he got his brain injury.
Well, actually, I've had two brain injuries. As a teenager, I was waiting for the school bus at school with a friend, and a student had stolen his dad's motorcycle, drove up to school, lost control, ran into a crowd, so I got flipped, landed on my head, severe concussion. But this is before the days really knew much about brain injuries in the early 80s. And about a year later, I started having grand mal seizures and got put on Tegretol, which was a new drug at the time. And the neurologist even said it was scar tissue from the concussion. As they said it was. When I went to college, I wondered why in college things were hard for me after my brain injury that were easy in high school. I graduated, but it was very difficult. But I made it. And I worked for many years, not with my degree in accounting, but I did refrigeration for Kroger and a couple other places throughout my career. And at age 50, I shouldn't say this, at age 48, I fell backwards, 25 feet off a fixed ladder, and got put on pelvis, did a couple other bad things. They put me on Loratabs for pain, which is an opiate. Well, opiates are addictive. And I found it through friends that if I did certain things, I could do all kinds of stuff and drink on seizure medication, being epileptic. And I did. Age 50, drinking, driving, no seatbelt, opiates, on Tegretol. Had a seizure while I was driving, single car accident. I got thrown from the car, a frontal lobe traumatic brain injury, and a C2 hangman's neck fracture. And I still walk. I'm very blessed.
Very blessed, very lucky to be alive.
Yes, I am.
Very lucky to be a very independent person.
Yes, I live on my own still. I have my own apartment. I have a lot of help from Kay, my mother. They help me make sure things go well for me and make sure everything's taken care of. Because a lot of times I'll forget. That's my biggest problem with my brain injury. Even being a college graduate, my memory short term is bad. Kay will tell you that.
Mine's not always so great either. So appreciate Frank being with us. I think today you'll probably enjoy hearing most from him. Frank and I our goal today is to present this information to you about brain injury in a professional manner, of course, but we also really believe in keeping it real because we want you to know, and want to share our experiences with you. So, we're going to talk just a little bit about what we hope to do today. And, we want to make sure that, we share information about the different parts of the brain and, that you understand also too what a brain injury is and how a brain injury affects functioning. And we want to share some strategies too. Folks, I'm going to be real with you about one thing because of the view I've got on my computer. I may not see every slide 100%, but so if there's something that I didn't cover that you see on the slide, y'all raise your hand, or Carrie or Becky, if y'all are watching chat, let me know if there's something I missed and I'll come back to it. but I think I've got this stuff memorized by now. Great. Okay. So what is a brain injury? So you may hear Frank and I use two different terms. So if we say traumatic brain injury, or we call it a TBI, this is when there is damage to the brain that results from a physical force, such as being hit upside the head, like maybe being hit with a bat, or very commonly being in a car accident. And usually what happens is the person goes forward, they hit the front of their head, and then they go backwards and they hit the back of their head. The brain inside the skull tends to also twist and turn, leading to a lot of damage. It's not just where the person's head hits the surface, it's all the torsion and turning that happens inside that also tears the tissue in the brain. So a traumatic brain injury, though, is just one way that a person gets a brain injury. So the term acquired brain injury, sometimes we call it an ABI, refers to traumatic brain injuries and also all of the other ways that a person can get a brain injury. So a person who has had a stroke has had a brain injury.
Yes.
As Frank mentioned earlier, a person who's had a concussion has had a brain injury. It may be someone who's had meningitis or someone who has had a brain tumor that was removed. So there are different ways to get a brain injury. Traumatic brain injuries tend to get a fair bit of attention, but they are just one type of an acquired brain injury. And they are very common. This is the part probably, you guys, where I'm going to have a little trouble seeing the exact numbers. But what I can tell you is that brain injury is really common. And when you combine together people who've experienced traumatic injuries and stroke, there are a lot of people in South Carolina who've experienced brain injuries. And a lot of the individuals who experience them, there are a lot of people who go to the emergency room and they go home with a concussion. And a concussion may sound like, hey, not a big deal. But sometimes a concussion can be life-changing for people. A mild brain injury can really affect people. But there are many people in South Carolina whose lives are impacted forever, and that of their family and their friends by their brain injury, and they live with permanent disability. Interspersed throughout, we have a few pictures of some of our outings, things we enjoy doing. This is a trip to Strawberry Hill in upstate, kind of like, I guess, near Gaffney, I believe, kind of that area.
Yes.
That's a place we really enjoy going. So next, we're going to move into talking about just, the amazing brain. And I really want to have time to focus on strategies at the end. So this is a Brain Injury 101 class. We're going to talk about some things. I'm not going to go super in depth. I just want to equip you with a good basic overall knowledge that hopefully you can use. And then at the end, I'm even going to tell you some ways, if you're interested in learning more about brain injury, I'll tell you some ways you can do that. Some other offerings in South Carolina. Okay, so here's some fast facts about the brain. So the brain is the master organ. We think about the heart. The heart's really important, but the heart really doesn't function like it should if your brain is not functioning well too. So the brain controls thought, memory, emotion, and behavior. It is the seat of intelligence, our higher cognition, our ability to really think at that higher level. It is the brain, of course. But it also helps regulate vital processes that we need to live, our ability to breathe, our body temperature, our appetite. The brain is important for those things too. One thing Frank and I like to make sure that everybody really understands, and if you've worked with a few people with brain injuries, you already know this. No two brain injuries are alike.
None.
And Frank, if you've met one person with a brain injury,
You met one person with a brain injury.
absolutely.
Nobody's the same.
And so it's also important to know that every person's recovery is going to be different. It can be impacted by whether the person had good life-saving care immediately. They survive it. Today more people are surviving these injuries. Years ago, Frank, may not have lived. They live today. They're left with lifelong disability in some cases. But also, are they able to go to a level 1 trauma center? Do they have good inpatient rehab? Can they go to outpatient rehabilitation? Do they have access to case management and to staff who know something about brain injury and well-informed in-home care providers? There are so many people who can touch the life of a person with a brain injury and their family. And so, those things matter. Other things that matter with recovery are things such as prior education that matters, overall health. There are a lot of different things that can impact a person's outcome.
Well, I've got to say that I think what has been a big help to me is having an education. Having a college education after my first brain injury, I think really helped me through life and through my brain injury issues that I had with memory. And a lot of it was, especially like after my second brain injury, was, what happened to me?
Yeah.
Why me?
Yeah.
Why did this happen to me? And everybody,
Right.
and I've learned through Kay and through everybody else that there is life after a brain injury. And you have a very
Absolutely.
meaningful life.
Yeah.
And I try to do the best I can with what I have to have a very meaningful life and to be happy. Because a lot of people aren't.
And we want to share that information today to, our hope is that for the people you work with who have brain injuries, that we can share some strategies and some things we've learned along the way from our mistakes too, that we think,
Yes.
that we think can help people live more meaningful and happy lives. One thing that would be really helpful for me, I haven't asked you to do, would y'all mind putting in the chat? What do you do? Do you provide employment? Do you work for a day program? Do you work in a home, a residential program? Carrie or Becky, could y'all maybe tell me a little bit about that as people enter that information in chat?
Absolutely. So far, we've got an LPN
Mm,
on the call, day program. Residential program manager, a few of those.
Right.
Residential, yep, a lot of day program folks coming through.
Wonderful. I love hearing that we have people
Independent
who
living skills too.
Oh,
Sorry,
good.
Kate.
Yeah. Great.
And Kate also does independent living skills, so she's an
Yeah.
expert at that.
Well, it's really good to hear that we have people in this meeting who work with people with brain injuries in a lot of different capacities. That's really great.
A lot of employment too, Kay and
A
Frank.
lot of employment. Good. Excellent. I am so glad you're here too. Employment's not easy working with people with brain injuries, doing employment services. So we're really glad you're here. So, start talking a little bit about brain anatomy. And here's the part where I could go super in depth, but I'm not. I'll spare you. But
Thank you, Kay.
Yeah, really. I can get kind of nerdy about this stuff, but we will talk about some of the things that I just think are really important for you to know. So, our brain has 4 lobes. This is a side diagram of the lobes of the brain. Now, there's 4 lobes, but there is our brain also has 2 hemispheres. So for the frontal lobe, there's a right frontal lobe, a left frontal lobe. For every lobe, there's a right and a left. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But, it's important here to kind of just look at, some of the overall functions of the brain. So if we start, just overall talking a little bit about the cerebellum, the cerebellum is so important. Down here at the bottom, you see the spinal cord comes up into the brain stem, right down at the very bottom of the brain. And then we have the cerebellum there off the back, kind of sometimes we call it the little brain. And the cerebellum is really important for maintaining vital life processes. So, like when Frank had that accident, this last one, and when he, trying to see if I could just admit, y'all, I'll get that off my screen. So when he had his injury, Frank, emergency services arrived and intubated you at the scene, right?
Yes, then I was airlifted. I'd be airlifted. I died twice somewhere there, but I had to be airlifted because of the nature of my neck fracture
Right.
because of the C2.
They were very worried you were going to be paralyzed.
Right, yes.
And they essentially made sure that you could not move or respond.
Right.
And they
And I
intubated
don't, thank
you.
God I don't remember any of that.
Because when this happens to you, you're at real risk of having something happen where you just cannot breathe, where your lungs are not functioning properly. So when EMS, med flight, whoever it is, arrives on scene, the first thing, of course, is to keep the person alive. And your cerebellum, and the brainstem, the brainstem is very important for those processes. Brainstem, breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, even sleep, very important for that. There's a part in this area, it's called the pons. When a person is in a coma, we kind of think of that pons as being like a dimmer switch. When it's turned down low, the person is not very responsive. They may be comatose. As the brain recovers, hopefully that dimmer switch kind of moves up a little bit. The person becomes more conscious, and finally fully conscious. But the cerebellum back there, that little part, the little brain, really responsible for balance, equilibrium. So when people are given a field sobriety test, when they think that they may have that they were driving under the influence, the tests that a person does, these are really testing the cerebellum because it's the first part of the brain that's affected by alcohol. So
And
really important.
as Kay knows, I couldn't do a sobriety test
Yeah.
now if I wanted to. I
Right.
tried, even though I haven't drank, I haven't anything 13, 14 years now. I did it for Brian a minute ago.
Mhm.
I could not stay balanced.
Yeah.
And it feels like, everybody's like, he's drunk. And I'm
Right.
not.
Right. That's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that because we'll talk at the end about the Brain Injury Association of South Carolina. And one resource they have is an identification card for people who've had brain injuries. So
Having the car.
we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. So right up above the cerebellum at the back of the brain is the occipital lobe. It's very specialized for vision. So, when things are going well, a person we see normally maybe with more or less impairment to some degree, depending on the acuity of our vision. But, when a person has a brain injury, there may be changes in vision, such as a field cut, where a person may be able to see out of their right visual field, but not left visual field. A person may have double vision, triple vision. There can be a lot of bouncy vision. So a lot of different things can occur when that area of the brain is affected.
Well, I do know somebody with a brain injury that does have double vision.
Right. A
And-
lot of people with
and
brain injuries have it.
Sometimes with that double vision, they can't drive because they can't see well enough to
Very
get
true.
behind the wheel of a vehicle. And it scares them. They won't do it.
Very true. Very true. So, also just want to talk about the parietal lobe. Parietal lobe is really important for processing sensory information, bodily information. So, it's great when it's working properly and doing what it should, but when it doesn't, a person can have difficulty with sensing the world around them. They may be hyper responsive to touch. They may not feel things very well. So there are a lot of different things that can develop as when there is damage in that area also. And then I'm going to move to the frontal lobe. We'll talk a little bit about the temporal lobe next. Sorry about that.
I
And
apologize.
it's okay. No, you're good, Frank. What did you want to share?
I've realized too, with my brain injuries, my taste is not what it used to be either. I
Okay.
can't taste, and there are things I used to love, I can't stand anymore.
Yeah.
I don't understand why certain foods that I love,
Mm-hmm.
now they're just awful.
Not the same.
No, it's not.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to move over and talk about the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe is sort of like on the side of I really didn't mention with the parietal lobe. So the parietal lobe is on the side on top of the head, where the temporal lobe is more around the ears, a little bit lower on the different sides of your head. The temporal lobe is important for speech, for language. So sometimes when people have damage to this area, we can see some interesting things happen with being able. So one thing that you can see with temporal lobe damage is that a person may have a lesion that is known as a Wernicke's a lesion in the area of in Wernicke's area of that lobe of the brain. And this causes something known as Wernicke's aphasia, which means a person can speak, but they have trouble understanding language. And when they speak, what they say may not make a whole lot of sense, or it may be very disjointed. Now, moving around to the frontal lobe, we really think of that as being in charge. That's the chairman of the board. That is the part of our brain that is really responsible for all of our higher thinking processes. And that also has another area that is important for speech. That area is called Broca's area. So if you work with a person who has trouble getting words out, maybe like if you held up something to them, I mean, I'm even like a spoon or a book, they may look at it, point their finger and be like, I know what that is, but takes them a little time to get the word out. That is what we call a Broca's aphasia. So, or an expressive aphasia. So there's two different ways that can happen.
Well, it's like with me, what I've realized is, and I don't know which part this is of that. Okay, you know, I can speak so fast, nobody will understand a word. My speech gets so fast and so slurred.
Yeah.
And I talk fast anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just, sometimes it's like, Frank, slow down.
Gotcha.
Frank, slow down. You've done it to me.
Yeah, I have a few times.
I can't understand words you're saying.
All right. So folks, I wanted to show this other slide to you here. There's a lot of times people will, talk about right brain versus left brain. And, there's some truth in talking about being a right brain person, and there's some myth around it too. So it is true that the right side of our brain seems to have some superpowers in terms of helping us. I'm trying to look at this a little bit better to see all the different things that I've listed here for you. But, a lot of times we think of, the right side of the brain like being more artistic, creative, and our left side of the brain is being more logical, more mathematical, those kinds of things. And there's some truth in that. But also it's really important to know, and we see this play out all the time with people with brain injuries, that, the brain, if you look at the two lobes, like even in this picture here in this slide, which is just a really rough diagram, you see here that, you have two lobes, but you have this line that goes between the two lobes, and that roughly represents the corpus callosum, which helps to connect the two, the lobes of the brain. So even when a person has a brain injury to the right side of their brain, function in that area of the brain may be impacted, but other parts of the brain, even the left side, they can jointly work together to, help a person still to be able to function at a certain level and to
help reroute.
Yeah.
Reroute
There's a term known as neuroplasticity. Right. So sometimes after brain injury, as people recover and try new things, they, parts of the brain do seem to form new networks and new connections so that a person can do things. So that's really encouraging.
First, I started with vocational rehab, which was very helpful, getting me back into finding myself and helping me get back into employment even, which was great.
Yeah.
But I've also realized too that with my frustration was really bad at first.
Yeah.
And I just, why? What I do to, and I even said this, what I do to deserve it. And I know it wasn't anybody's fault but my own. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me quite a while to realize that there is life after a brain injury. I can still do things. I'm very blessed. I still walk. I can still think somewhat. And there's a lot of things that I can't do anymore, but there are still a lot of things I can do to help people who are less fortunate than I was.
Yeah.
And like it goes back to, no brain injury is the same, no matter what. I've had two, and I'm very blessed in that I still have some of my cognitive abilities able to use.
And Becky, did you also ask him, did he find mental health services to be helped?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because you did, do you mind sharing?
You share.
Well, I want you to tell what you thought, and then I can maybe add on to it a bit.
I went to physical therapy. I went to a therapist for quite a while when I
Mhm.
started here. And they would, this came from my mother. They would ask you questions, Frank, and you would just answer it just to to get it over with. You just say something, just, so you can go on to something else.
Right, right.
So I didn't was not a big help to me. I don't think.
So, you went to see the therapist not too long ago, within the last few years. And what did he focus on? Do you recall that?
No, I don't.
Sort of emotional,
Yes,
more like anger.
anger and yeah, anger, frustration, and you know, trying to learn to impulsivity.
And I think,
That's a bad one for me.
and I think Frank is kind of highlighting some of the challenges with therapy for people with brain injuries.
Sure.
It is really hard sometimes to remember what you went over.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
And if you're not working with someone who is reminding you of that a lot and working on specific goals and kind of trying to do it in a consistent manner, even Frank, whose memory's pretty darn good, he forgets things too.
Sure.
And sometimes one of the real challenges too I found with therapy, I really believe in therapy. I think it's a wonderful thing. I believe in mental health services. They're so helpful in many ways to many people. A challenging issue for a person with brain injury sometimes is their awareness of their challenges. And sometimes that can make it a little difficult to benefit. Sometimes it depends on the person. But I think when Frank was going, I think he really was good at giving you some strategies. Do you think you continued to use them
Yes, they do.
to some degree?
Some degree, yes,
Yeah.
and I've learned too that it's very helpful to me to be able to write things down.
Yeah.
Write it down.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Because
Yeah.
if I don't, Kate, it's funny, this has happened several times.
Yeah.
Kay asked me a question about something. We did this, we did that. Oh, yeah, now, okay, and then it comes back to me.
Yeah.
But if I got it written down, yeah, we did this, that. I know I can refresh my memory through going back what I've written down.
Yep.
That's hard.
So I think
that's great.
So I
Thank
think
you.
it can be very beneficial to some people. I think it depends on the person, and I think if someone can help them practice the strategies that the counselor provides, I think it can be helpful.
Kind of
for
need a
them.
buddy to go too.
I think you do. I
Yes.
think you do, or at least kind of like if a person goes to PT or OT,
Yeah.
you want those at-home notes so you can
Yeah.
then continue to work
Yeah.
on things. Folks, can y'all see my PowerPoint now? I think I shared
Yeah,
it.
we're good.
Okay, so sorry about that, minor detour.
No, you're fine.
Presentations look kind of alike on my little laptop. So we're going to delve into talking about symptoms and strategies, and we're going to highlight some of the ones that we think that we've seen most of the people around us experience, including Frank.
Including me.
In
Yes.
some ways. So we're going to talk about some physical, cognitive, and emotional symptoms that people tend to experience after brain injury. We've already told you that no two brain injuries are alike, that each person recovers differently. Didn't really say this one. Improvement is not always linear. So, a person, it is true when a person first has their brain injury, when they're in the hospital, when they go to rehabilitation, we tend to see a more linear progression with some back and forth, like if a person's having a bad day, that kind of thing. But many years out, some people that I have worked with, I mean, I've known them because like we mentioned earlier, I've been doing this a good long time. And there are a couple of people I work with that I've worked with most of the time I've been here. And it's been amazing to me. Sometimes we'll sort of plateau, but we keep working on things. And then I see a step forward. 2 or 3 steps forward, but then a step back. It's just not, and there are a lot of things that can influence that, particularly I think health and as we get older.
That's gonna.
Yeah, and
That's what scares me the most.
Yeah.
Is getting older, and it's known that as we go, our cognitive functions aren't as good as they were when we were 20, 30, or 40 years old.
Yeah, we all experience changes, but after
Yeah.
brain injury, it's a little different.
It's a little different, yes, it is.
So yeah, we will definitely talk about that. So here we've listed, just some of the physical symptoms that people tend, to experience after brain injury. There are a whole lot of them there. I won't go through, listing all of them, but I know you can read them. But, I do really want to stress, if you can, a person with a brain injury needs to be seeing a neurologist. Because over their lifespan, there will likely be changes. And that neurologist is the one who can get that baseline. They can continue if they need to do a scan. They can do it when a new symptom arises, if headaches get worse or new headaches, or all of a sudden they're having seizures, or different things are happening. That neurologist can really help with that. And OT and PT and speech, we usually think for people with brain injuries that they can always use a reevaluation. It's good, again, to catch small changes that may be about to lead to a fall, or perhaps seeing some declines in judgment that may make a person less safe. And staying on top of that medical side of it is really helpful. And Frank, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, because I know that, and I've talked to my neurologist about it, where the changes in me is where my temporal and frontal lobe have separated.
Right. Yes.
That scared me to death.
Yeah, and that is scary. Frank is not the only person who's told me that lately, that sometimes on some scans, neurologists, as people with brain injuries get older, start to see some shrinking of the ventricles of the brain. We can see some changes. And, we don't know. Frank started having more seizures. So
Yes.
Don't know what is causing that. But it's just really good points about why it's important to stay on top of the
Yes,
medical
that's where I
side
go.
of things.
My neurologist, but the funny thing what he's told me is, because I've said something about, because guys, I've had probably 30 MRIs in my life.
Yeah.
Or more. And my last time with the neurologist was a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I guess it's about time for an MRI. He goes, no, your injuries are older, so there's not really that much. We're worried about keeping what still is there in good shape. So
Yeah.
we're not worried about giving you MRIs to see what has happened to you, because we know what's happened to you.
Right. Because you have a history
Because I have a
of
history.
those scans.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But if you do get someone who comes into your program who may not have had a recent scan, if you're, if you're seeing behavioral issues that you're concerned about, a neurologist is a great place to start.
Yes.
And I'm probably preaching to the choir about this. I think you probably are consulting on that, but just in case, we really wanted to mention it. So we're just going to highlight a few physical symptoms that we have found to, be challenging to people. Managing fatigue. Fatigue is a big one. So our day program, like all day programs, are about 5 hours.
Yep.
And 5 hours is rough for people with brain injuries. Most of you go home and do what?
take a nap.
Yep, they go home and go to bed.
Go to bed.
And
I do that.
and we really try to, have an engaging program and keep people busy and, doing meaningful things, but it does wear them out. Sometimes as the day progresses, people are looking for the couch to try to see if they can rest a bit, or, so it is taxing. But there are some things we can do to help with fatigue. So, I think one of the biggest things is letting people, we need to realize, and then help the person with a brain injury realize it's just fine to take a break, and this is happening a lot of the times. This fatigue, we sometimes call it cognitive fatigue, neurofatigue. The damaged brain takes more time and more energy to process information. So, some things that we can do, if there's something, we need to prioritize. If there are important tasks that require a lot of energy and thinking, we need to do them first, do them earlier, or when the person has more energy. That depends on the person. For a lot of you, it is earlier in the day.
Right.
Yeah.
And I realize, I really wish my brain would slow down sometimes.
Yeah.
It never does.
Yours is and that's not uncommon.
Even at night when I'm sleeping, my brain's still going 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. And so, we also need to talk about drugs and alcohol. As Frank mentioned. You know, there are a fair number of people who got their brain injuries as a result of an accident where alcohol and drugs were involved.
Yes.
And people tend to continue to use drugs and alcohol after brain injury. You know, it's to self-medicate, to feel better, to feel more like their old selves, because it's a social lubricant when they're around friends. A lot of different reasons. But caffeine, there's good and bad. Caffeine earlier in the day may help a person, can help them focus a little bit more, increases attention and vigilance a little bit more. But when they start to get that drop off, well, not really when you get the drop off,
You
but
crash.
later you can crash,
You
especially
crash.
with more sugar. It's kind of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But as we, later in the day, you don't want too much caffeine in the system, because a lot of people with brain injuries don't sleep well either. And
Really?
yes.
And who's one of them?
Yes. So that is something too. So, and for fatigue, and the next thing we're going to talk about, headaches, you want to make sure you're drinking plenty of water. So a lot of people with brain injuries have headaches. A lot of people are able to treat their headaches with Tylenol. But people who have migraines, no, they're not. Fortunately, there are a lot of different things that people can use today to, there are a lot of things, medications that people can take today to help them with them. So
I take a medication every day. It's a new drug.
Yeah.
Qulipta.
Qulipta, good.
Which is, I take a Qulipta tablet every day. And I haven't had a migraine in several months. But I
Good.
used to, you've seen me. I've seen you too.
Yeah.
Migraines are no fun.
Right.
They're painful.
I have migraines too. And, some of the triptan drugs today, there are all kinds of different things available today that are really helpful. Some other things we can do for a person with a brain injury that we work with who's having headaches. Of course, we want that person to sleep. We want them to make sure that they are consulting a neurologist and taking their medication, and that they track their headaches. It might be good to have a migraine diary. That can be really helpful to the person. I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing what I've got on my screen here because it's such small print for me.
You want me to help you?
Yeah, help me there for a minute, Becky.
Environmental triggers.
Yeah, that's a
Big
big
one.
one. Heat. I know sometimes it seems that our folks, when they get warm, during the summer, we have more of them, more migraines, more seizures, bright light. That can be
right.
another one too. You mind helping me again, Becky?
Yes, no, that light stretching, you just hit light, caffeine, foods, red wine, MSG.
Yes.
Yeah, certain cheeses.
Yes, certain cheeses. So MSG, some of the Asian foods, it tastes so good. Sometimes the soy sauce, different things like that. Cheeses, there can be wine, can be a lot of different triggers for people. But it really comes down to helping the person to learn what their triggers are and trying to manage those.
Okay, in your program, what kind of lights do you have?
We don't have the best lighting, but we do try to manage it. We are able to turn off, sorry, had a phone call come in there. We are able to turn the lights down, and turn them off in different parts of the room, and we have a chill room.
Okay,
Good.
That's quiet.
Yes.
Yes, all of that. And then, like Frank said, the last really thing that on this slide is make sure you get medicine. Like, encourage our folks to go to the doctor, and let's see medically what can happen. Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Because Frank, you said that.
Yes, I've learned, I hate the fact of take all this medication, but it's helping me. I'm staying cognitive for the most part, and I try to do what I can to help. And with all the medications I'm on, sometimes it makes you very tired.
Yeah.
You're sleepy. Because I'm on 2 different types of seizure medication, and I take quite a bit. Actually, I take 1,000 milligrams of Keppra and 600 milligrams of Tegretol a day.
And you really, comparatively speaking, take fewer medicines than a lot of the people that we work with. Yeah. Some take 16.
Yeah.
14
And
pills a day. Yeah.
I think that's such a good point too, because, we have to remember side effects of meds,
Yes.
you know, and work that in. I mean, to how people are behaving or sounding, or maybe they just don't feel good ever, and you know, all of that.
Well,
Especially with our
when I started Tegretol in 1982, it was a new drug.
Right.
And it's just true. My mom can tell you, I slept 18 hours a day or more just getting used to the Tegretol.
Yes.
Because it made me very tired.
Yeah.
And mom said, you were maybe up 3 or 4 hours a day. That was about it for about a month. It
Right.
took a long time for
Yeah.
my body just to get acclimated to it.
Yes.
So,
and and that goes back to what you guys said about when did the accident happen? Where are we in recovery, right?
right.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning you might see something, but it might get better, and yeah.
And it usually gets worse.
Okay, there you go. I
Unfortunately.
didn't want to say
Yeah.
it because
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, you know, you really, I'm glad you said that because, we talk so much about how every person's injury is different. It's not uncommon for a person maybe who before their personality wasn't particularly pleasant to become very pleasant. But some of these physical issues, cognitive issues, unfortunately, overall, there is a period where they get better. Then they may plateau and with age get a little worse. So that's the typical. I'm not saying everybody, but it's pretty typical.
yeah, yeah.
And moving on to seizures, just briefly, we've talked about them a little bit already. Very common after brain injury. They do develop at sometimes many years after a brain injury. They can become more frequent. The type of seizure can change. So again, knowing your triggers, managing them, consulting with a neurologist, taking a break, all of those things.
Kay has seen me have a seizure.
Several times.
Yes. And either pet them all. I've had a pet pills. I've had a grandma too.
Yep.
When I was I was cleaning them
Yep, you were doing some cleaning around here, and I looked down and I didn't know what I thought. Frank was trying to fix the vacuum cleaner. He was sort of looking, but then I noticed he was moving his arms and legs like he was running. So, it's kind of a different looking seizure. But anyway, I know we need to move along, so we're getting a little bit closer to time. Sensory overload is a very important challenge that people have after brain injuries. So, again, knowing people's triggers again is really important. I know some of these things I'm saying them a lot, but what we typically see here is that people with brain injuries sometimes are overstimulated by the voices of others. What may not sound really loud to us sounds much louder to them. And I've even seen this with people who wear who wear hearing aids. That makes sense. I know sometimes there's issues between, the person speaking to you and background noise. So I think that's a real consideration. Lighting, and cognitive demand. And I think that's really important if you work with a person on the employment side, because, the more demanding the job, it's going to be harder for many people with brain injuries. If they're having to keep up with a repetitive task, that might be one thing. And even that can be challenging. But if they're doing multiple tasks, if they're working a job where they can't really keep up with a to-do list, those kinds of things, it's going to be challenging. So, helping the person learn to acknowledge and recognize and acknowledge, hey, I'm getting overstimulated. I'm about to flip my lid here. And then helping them learn, I can take a break. I can ask for help. All of those things are something that can help.
One of the biggest things I've learned with that is because there are so many times you just want to say things you really shouldn't say.
Right.
Is to get up, walk away.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Yeah.
Think about it for a while before you come back to say anything.
Yeah.
Because I've got myself in trouble here more than once by somebody saying something to me, and of course you gotta have the last word. You gotta say something.
Yes.
And I shouldn't.
Thank
you. But a lot of times I've walked away.
You have.
But a lot of times I just
You give them the royal F.
Yes, I
as
do.
we've said.
Yes, yes, I do.
So,
And that's wrong.
yeah, it's not good.
No.
Cognitive symptoms. So there's a variety of them. I've highlighted some of the ones here that we see a lot. So a lot of issues around memory. And Frank, I think memory's a
Yes,
challenge.
yes, it is.
Comparatively speaking, you may have a pretty good memory, but some people cannot really remember what they had for breakfast, what you told them a few minutes ago. It's not uncommon to see those extreme levels of memory impairment. Attention, paying attention and focus is a big issue.
One of the biggest things I've found out is my short-term memory.
Yes.
Is you and I can be having this right? We're having this
Yep.
deal right now. In an hour, Kate can come back to me and say, Frank, do you remember we were talking about this? And I'll go, oh yes.
Right.
It take me a little, I gotta
Yeah.
be able to
But
find it.
she'll tell me no.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can't
Right.
bring it back. And the short term is what has been the hardest for me.
Yep. So right there in the middle, Becky, where I've got the three that are
Yeah.
highlighted in yellow, could you read those for me?
Yes, trouble paying attention, poor
Yeah.
impulse control, which Frank talked about, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Difficult processing information.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
We're on to that next yellow one, because I think that's self-awareness.
Yep, lack of awareness and challenges, not realizing, right?
Yeah, and it's really, I know I've mentioned it just a bit already, but it is one thing that we see, and that's a real challenge here, is that, and I'll give you an example. One person who really bugs Frank is a person who uses a lot of profanity.
Yes.
But sometimes when you're pretty frustrated, you use a lot of profanity.
Yes, I do.
And so, and sometimes we have another situation, a male and female who both have brain injuries. He tends to talk a lot, like there's words almost coming out all the time, and it drives the female crazy, but she does the exact same thing. And it's really interesting to see that. Typically, people with brain injuries are more aware of their physical challenges and less aware of their cognitive and emotional difficulties overall. Okay.
Gotcha.
Moving right along. So some strategies that help. I would love to tell you more about them. I'm having trouble seeing them. So Becky, you may have to read them to me.
Yes. Create
I'll
a
elaborate.
structured, no, you're fine. Create
Yeah.
a structured day with consistent routines and then fun stuff and novelty.
Yeah, that's what we really encourage people to do and what we try to do here. So structure. You know, we have blocks of time where certain things happen during the day. When everybody comes in here, we start our day with morning brew. We have
Right.
coffee, we play a game, we check in, whatever we do. We have time for our individual activities. We have a choice of 2 group activities. We have lunch. We kind of do the same thing again in the afternoon.
Right.
Now, to break it up, we try to do, occasionally we just go completely off script and we do something different or we go out. But those things, but if we did not have structure, it
Would be chaos.
would be chaos.
Yes, it would.
Folks wouldn't really know what to do next. There'd be a lot of questions. There would be a lot of confusion. I think we'd have more wandering, more behavioral challenges, but having that structure helps us to be able to say, hey, we know what's next. And I think it comforts people
With
too.
me, and Kay and I've talked about this many times, I have a routine that I follow every day.
Yes,
And if I don't, I am lost.
right.
I'm serious.
Yes.
I know what I do in the morning. I have the same routine every morning. When I get up, and then to come here, and then when I get home, I have a routine I follow every day.
Yep.
And if I don't,
Yes,
what have I done?
very important. Becky, do you mind hitting those other ones
Not
for
at
me quickly and
all.
I'll elaborate as needed?
Yeah, provide activities to stimulate maintenance of abilities and opportunities for growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you can keep on going and I'll just kind of
Yeah.
try to get it up
Yeah,
together.
that goes in line with the first one. Break down tasks into simple steps and practice each steps. And those
Yeah.
can be related to your goals, right, Kay?
Absolutely. But yes,
Yeah.
goals will be functional, meaningful, help a person to do whatever is most important to them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so your whole day doesn't have to, I'm just adding a couple documentation tips in here because
Yeah.
I know y'all are like, well, Becky's over there from OIDD. But that's what you write your notes on. You don't have
Yeah.
to tell us if somebody had a nap in your program because their medicine is wiping them out. You don't have to tell us that. You tell us what the goals were that you worked on when everyone was able to participate, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And then set up for success, use a calendar.
Yeah, I really, and when if you come into our program, for example, you will see that we have two whiteboards. Each whiteboard should have the calendar on it. Are we perfect? We don't, maybe one day here we forget to write it on one of them, but they have a paper calendar. And then there is the whiteboard calendar for the day. So people can refer to it. People will still sometimes say, hey, what are we doing next? Where do we look? We look at the calendar. We look at the schedule that's on the board. So having that up there, and then yeah, these big ones like this next one, Becky, that's where I'm having
Yes.
more fun
No,
with it.
this is excellent. The the best planner, right, is the one the
Yes.
person will use. So you're
Yeah.
talking about have that person track their own appointments and all of that, even though you might be, go ahead, take it from me. I
Absolutely.
love that.
Yeah, it used to be that we tried to really encourage people to use paper planners. Well, guess what would happen? You'd lose the planner, right? So we were glad when phones came along because people, tend to use them more. They're more likely to look at them. They make noises and they beep. We do
Yeah.
still lose a lot of phones around here, but especially, for everyone, I think too, because that's one thing, after a brain injury, when you feel like you've lost your independence in planning things for yourself, that's devastating.
It's devastating.
I always, if all of a sudden I couldn't plan my doctor's appointment, somebody else had to do it for me, at least feeling like I had some control and input, learning to look in my chart and use that,
Right.
that might be
That's
something
a
that
great
would,
goal, even.
yeah,
That's a great training
that
goal.
can really be
You
good.
you're talking about an information station next.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
So for a person with a brain injury, it's great to have a place in the home and places in our program where they know where their stuff is.
Yeah.
And then, because it's, you put your wallet there, you put your keys there. If there's something you've got to handle tomorrow, that's where it is. So, and so, sometimes it takes time to learn where that information station is, but put it somewhere where the person
Yeah.
will see it and use it.
Well,
Yeah.
and I've realized too, keeping track of my medication,
Yep.
using my phone for like my prescriptions like that, know when they're gonna need to be refilled, where I'm getting the prescription from,
Yes.
everything, and making sure I redo my prescriptions and fill my containers each week.
Yes.
Make sure I sit down and take the time to make sure I have all the medication I need for my mornings, my evenings, and if I don't know what I'd do if I couldn't do that.
I know.
I don't-
Absolutely.
I'd be having more seizures probably.
Yes. So we'll move on. I know we're
Yeah.
getting kind of close. Becky and Carrie, do we continue on
You're-
a few more minutes or?
I'm great. If anybody has to jump off, we certainly understand. If you want to stay on another 5-10 minutes,
Yeah.
Kay, you and Frank are welcome to go on as long as you have the time.
Well, we'll go on a few more, but we're moving toward the end and we'll try to wrap up. I'm going to give, sent some resources to Carrie and Becky that they can
Yes.
email to you. So I think those will be helpful to you too.
Yes.
But I'll move over to these, talking about the emotional symptoms. So, really, we can see a lot of anxiety and depression, just, mood swings, anger, behavioral challenges. So brain injury can cause a lot of issues, a lot of emotional symptoms that can be hard for people to deal with. So
The hardest thing I had with emotionally for me was not feeling sorry for myself. Why me?
yeah, yeah.
What happened to me?
Yeah.
And that was very hard to let go of.
It is. And when a person has a brain injury, not only are so the structures that help control emotion, the frontal lobe is important, but also these deep parts of the brain that we really didn't talk about, the limbic system, the amygdala, those parts of the brain, when they're impacted, and they often are impacted by a brain injury, or when the chemicals in the brain are impacted, we see just a lot of changes and a lot of difficulties. So that, just keep in mind that there really, I think the take home there is just that there are a lot of things that can be going on. The person may not even really know why they're upset sometimes. That kind of hints at a chemical cause. And they have really endured a terrible loss. And people who have brain injuries, Frank, your family changes.
Yes,
You may lose your marital partner, your significant other,
I did.
friends. You did.
I did.
Friends tend to go
They
away.
did.
It's tough.
Yes.
It's tough. One thing we do here to try to help us, and what we've done some other things in the past, but this is kind of where we've settled, is looking at the zones of regulation. You can Google this. It's a great way to check in every day about, what zone are you in? All zones are okay. Sometimes we're blue. We don't feel good. We're bored. But Frank, what zone are you in right now?
I'm in the green zone.
We're green. We're focused.
We're focused.
We
and
Love it.
and I enjoy being able to talk to people, to explain my situation and what happened to me, and makes me feel better about myself to be able to help others.
Yes.
That's my whole point.
I can imagine that some of you may be starting to think it's almost time for lunch, and Kay and Frank are talking really long. You might be moving into the yellow.
No.
So, but do encourage you to look at the zones, because emotional dysregulation is a hallmark of brain injury, and probably one that professionals who work with people with brain injuries can sometimes really find to be difficult to assist with. So again, following up with a family doctor, perhaps psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, all can be allies to help the person with the injury. And these are just a few of the tools that we talk about here when a person is moving into the yellow or the red. We may do box breathing in 4 counts, breathing out 4 counts. What is it? Breathing in roses, blowing out the candle.
Candles, yeah.
We talk about that. We may do an exercise such as, what are 5 things you see? What are 4 things you smell? Different things like that. Progressive muscle relaxation. There are tons of exercises on YouTube where you just practice tightening and releasing the different parts of your body to let stress out. Those can be helpful. And then just fidgets. And there, you can buy all kinds of stuff online. Like if you like to pop bubbles, or you want to have something in your hand, or if you like a weighted blanket, anything to help that person kind of. And that's what's going on with our chill room. The best thing in there is a recliner. The best and worst thing in there is a recliner.
Well, what's
Right.
cool too, one of our other brain survivors here, father comes in every week, every Thursday,
Oh, yes.
and does Tai Chi with us.
Tai Chi Chai.
Oh,
It's
nice.
wonderful.
It
I mean,
is.
it's calming and relaxing,
Mhm.
and you're enjoying it.
Yes. Yes.
We do that every week.
I thought I would just move ahead to what survivors want you to know. And, I think here at the very top is my independence
Yes.
means everything to me. And, if we can put ourselves in the shoes of the person who's had a brain injury, and remember, if not for, however you want to look at it, if it's, by fate or God's grace or however you look at it, there I would be. If we can keep that in mind and think, how would I feel if my life had changed so much? What can I do to help this person feel more independent, regain their sense of self, their self-esteem? And it's hard. I know we've got guidelines to work within, but trying to find ways. I think if you feel that we are trying to meet you where you are, and we
Yes.
respect you, and we try to help you be more independent, I think those are the biggest things.
One thing I've realized too is with the council here and everybody that works here, they listen. They will listen to us,
Mm-hmm.
and then they will work with us in a meaningful way. And I say, well, you can't do that. You
Yeah.
got brains. You can't do this. You can't do that.
Right.
You're not going to do this anymore. You can't do that. Don't break everybody's self-esteem,
Yeah.
because that happens.
And
Almost to
sometimes
the
we
end
do-
of this.
I'm sorry. Oh, I think it was.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. I think, sometimes somebody will say, well, I can do something. I'm like, well, if I think it's safe, I'm like, show me,
Yeah.
show me. I think you can. Or sometimes somebody who'll be struggling, I'm like, you can do this. You
Yeah.
got this. And I think that goes a long way.
Yes.
So, but just we're getting here to the end, just a few things, strategies we recommend for a good day. I did want to mention something about assessment. When you do assessments with folks with brain injuries, a lot of times y'all say, hey, I can do that. I can do that, because yes, you could do that, but maybe you can't anymore. And so it really recommend you include family with that. Structure, structure, structure. We've talked about it so much. You're probably tired of it. I'm sure you get it. But just a few things to remember with people with brain injuries. Use it or lose it. Use it to improve it. Repetition matters. Consistency is key. If you go over how to do a task with a person with a brain injury and then say, okay, show me, or you come back 2 days later, show me, you're going to be very frustrated. Repetition is key. Continuing to encourage, giving opportunities, and also trying out tasks in different situations is really important, because people with brain injuries, like if I taught Frank how to do, I don't know, I mean, I'm just coming up with something off the top of my head, something like sorting out items for a job, like maybe you would on a sorting task at a job.
Right.
If we do it here, that doesn't mean he's really easily going to do it on the job when he actually starts the job.
No.
It's going to really have to be in place on site, most likely, because people, with brain injuries sometimes have trouble with generalizing. So, I did put on here that working is a goal, that people should pursue, of course, employment first. If the person can physically tolerate it, sometimes that's a challenge at first, but, over time, hopefully the person can. A big thing too, and we talk about this here, is boredom. People get bored. And
no, not us.
And I mean, really, I do a lot to try to prevent that from happening, but it happens. And that's just part of having a brain injury too. It kind of goes with it, but helping people to know how to save, what they can do with their downtime, and setting up options for downtime is a big thing that you can do to help a person with a brain injury. And last, social connection. The Brain Injury Association has lots of support groups in South Carolina. I'm going to give you that link on the next page. Check it out. Take a person to a support group. Encourage them to get out in public, to volunteer, maybe to go to church, all those things.
But a lot of them with social connections, and as I still hear it here quite often, is going to the bar, meeting my friends at the bar, going out drinking, doing
Some
something.
do.
And that's,
Yeah.
Guys, I'm not gonna lie, my second brain injury was drinking and drugs. I know that.
Yeah.
And I've been very proud of myself. Case helped me quite a bit through this, but I haven't had anything to drink or anything in 13 years. And I won't.
Congratulations.
I
That's
can't.
a big deal.
I was told
That's a
by
big deal.
vocational rehab, Frank, you've had too many brain injuries. If you drink or eat drugs again, your brain's going to bleed. You're going to have a stroke, and it's probably going to kill you.
Right.
So I went home to my mom, but they had to say, my mom says, Frank, you're an adult.
Yeah.
It's your decision.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you now, if that happens to you, I can't help you.
Tough love.
That's just, and she,
But she's been a big support.
yeah, she has.
Friends, we're at the end. I've shared some resources about apps and games that are really helpful. Almost any board game works on cognitive skills and communication skills for people with brain injuries. Some information about mindfulness activities. A little handout. It's a little booklet from the University of Alabama in Birmingham that has some really cool at-home activities, I think, for folks who do independent living skills, or even in your day program. These might be things you could do, and a strategy guide for job coaches. I've sent all of these in email to Becky and Carrie
Yeah.
with you. All right. If anybody has a question, we're happy to stick around. I know
Sure.
y'all have to go, but thank you all
This
for
has
your
been
time.
great, Kay. Really has been great.